They called it the Williams Curse, how Dr. Williams, the hospital's most successful surgeon, kept losing patients to mysterious complications. Random heart failures, unexpected infections, surgical instruments left behind. The medical board blamed bad luck. But if they had looked closer at the one nurse who was always present during these accidents, they might have uncovered a revenge 15 years in the making. Welcome to Dark Secret Stories. Before we dive into this chilling tale of hidden vengeance and deadly secrets, tell me in the comments, have you ever suspected someone close to you was hiding a dark truth? And if this story sends chills down your spine, please subscribe to help us uncover more shocking secrets that will blow your mind. Sarah Chen moved through the corridors of St. Mary's Hospital like a ghost in scrubs. At 42, she had the kind of face that inspired trust. Warm brown eyes, a gentle smile, and hands that never shook, no matter how critical the emergency. For 3 years, she had been the most reliable nurse in the surgical wing, always volunteering for the hardest cases, always staying late, always there when patients needed her most. "Sarah's our angel," Dr. Martinez often said during staff meetings. "I don't know what we'd do without her." The patients loved her too. She remembered birthdays, brought homemade cookies, and had a way of making even the most terrified child laugh before surgery. Parents would specifically request her, and many sent thank you cards months after their loved ones had recovered. But there was something the staff didn't know about their beloved angel, something hidden beneath her caring facade that would have horrified them if they'd ever discovered the truth. Sarah Chen wasn't at St. Mary's to heal. She was there to hunt. Every morning at 7 a.m., Sarah would check the surgical schedule with the precision of a military strategist. She knew which doctors were operating, which patients were scheduled, and most importantly, which cases Dr. Richard Williams would be handling. Dr. Williams, the hospital's star cardiac surgeon, the man whose hands had saved thousands of lives, the doctor whose reputation was built on excellence and innovation. He was also the man who had killed her daughter. 15 years ago, 6-year-old Emma Chen had been rushed to Seattle Children's Hospital with a rare heart defect. The surgery was complex, but Dr. Williams was confident. "Your daughter is in the best hands possible," he had told Sarah with that same charming smile that made patients trust him implicitly. The operation lasted 12 hours. Dr. Williams emerged exhausted but triumphant, announcing that the surgery had been a complete success. But 3 days later, Emma was dead, not from her heart condition, but from a massive infection caused by a surgical instrument that Dr. Williams had accidentally left inside her chest cavity. The hospital's investigation was swift and brutal in its conclusions. Dr. Williams had been operating for 18 straight hours before Emma's surgery. He was exhausted, his judgment impaired. The death was ruled accidental, a tragic case of human error. Dr. Williams faced no criminal charges, received only a brief suspension, and was back to operating within 6 months. Sarah's world had ended that day. Her marriage collapsed under the weight of grief. Her career as a social worker crumbled as depression consumed her. For years, she had fantasized about confronting Dr. Williams, making him pay for his carelessness. But revenge fantasies weren't enough anymore. She needed justice, real justice. So Sarah Chen had spent 5 years training to become a nurse, specifically targeting positions that would eventually lead her to Dr. Williams. She had studied his career path, learned his preferences, and carefully constructed a resume that would make her irresistible to any hospital lucky enough to hire her. When St. Mary's offered her a position in the surgical wing where Dr. Williams now worked, Sarah knew her moment had finally come. Dr. Richard Williams had always been lucky. Throughout his 25-year career, he had maintained one of the highest success rates in cardiac surgery. Patients flew in from around the world to be operated on by his skilled hands. Medical journals featured his innovative techniques. He was the hospital's golden boy, the surgeon other doctors aspired to become. But lately, his luck seemed to be changing. It started small, a post-operative infection here, an unexpected complication there. Nothing that could be directly attributed to his surgical skill, but enough to make the medical board take notice. In the past 6 months, Dr. Williams had lost 4 patients to what appeared to be unrelated complications. "It's just a rough patch," Dr. Williams told his colleague Dr. Martinez over coffee in the break room. "These things happen in cycles. I've seen it before." But privately, Dr. Williams was shaken. He had begun second-guessing himself in the operating room, his confidence eroded by each mysterious failure. Sleep eluded him as he replayed each surgery, searching for signs of what had gone wrong. What Dr. Williams didn't know was that Sarah Chen had been there for every single one of those failed surgeries. She had been the one to prepare the surgical instruments, monitor the patients post-operatively, and provide the follow-up care that should have prevented complications. She had also been the one to introduce nearly undetectable sabotage into each procedure. For patient number 1, she had contaminated a suture with bacteria so rare that the infection appeared completely random. For patient number 2, she had slightly misdosed blood thinners, causing internal bleeding that seemed like a natural complication. Patient number 3 received medication interactions that created a cascade of organ failure appearing to be caused by an unknown allergy. Each death looked like bad luck, medical mystery, or human error on someone else's part. Sarah had studied forensic medicine for years, learning exactly how to kill without leaving evidence. She was methodical, patient, and completely invisible to suspicion. But patient number 4 had been different. Mrs. Rodriguez was a 67-year-old grandmother who reminded Sarah painfully of her own mother. As Sarah prepared the insulin overdose that would cause Mrs. Rodriguez's blood sugar to crash during recovery, the old woman had grabbed her hand. "Thank you, Angel," Mrs. Rodriguez had whispered. "You've taken such good care of me. You remind me of my daughter. She's a nurse too." For a moment, Sarah's resolve had wavered. She saw Emma's face in Mrs. Rodriguez's kind eyes and felt a flicker of the person she used to be before grief had consumed her. But then she remembered Dr. Williams's careless hands, his dismissive attitude during the malpractice hearings, the way he had moved on with his life while Emma lay cold in the ground. Mrs. Rodriguez died 2 hours later. Each death brought Sarah closer to her ultimate goal. She wasn't just killing random patients. She was systematically destroying Dr. Williams's reputation, his confidence, and his career. She wanted him to experience the same helplessness she had felt watching Emma slip away. But she also wanted him to know why it was happening. Sarah's opportunity came in the form of Timothy Williams, Dr. Williams's 8-year-old son. The boy arrived at St. Mary's on a busy Thursday evening with what appeared to be acute appendicitis. As fate would have it, Dr. Williams was in surgery and couldn't operate on his own son due to hospital policy about family members. The case was assigned to Dr. Martinez, but Sarah volunteered to be the primary nurse. "I'll take special care of him," Sarah told Dr. Williams as he paced anxiously in the waiting room. "Don't worry, your son is in good hands." The irony of her words wasn't lost on her. These were almost exactly the same words Dr. Williams had spoken to her 15 years ago. As Sarah prepared Timothy for surgery, she studied the boy's face. He had his father's eyes, the same confident smile that had once charmed her into trusting Dr. Williams with Emma's life. But Timothy was innocent, a child who had no part in his father's crimes. Sarah's original plan had been simple. Let Timothy die on the operating table, making it look like Dr. Martinez's error while ensuring Dr. Williams experienced the agony of losing a child to medical incompetence. It would be poetic justice, the perfect culmination of her 15-year quest for revenge. But as she looked into Timothy's frightened eyes, Sarah felt something she hadn't expected: doubt. "Will you stay with me?" Timothy asked, his small hand gripping hers. "I'm scared." "I'll be right here," Sarah heard herself say. "You're going to be fine." The surgery went perfectly. Dr. Martinez removed Timothy's appendix without complications, and the boy recovered quickly. Sarah found herself genuinely caring for his comfort, bringing him extra ice chips, adjusting his pillows, and even reading him stories during her breaks. Dr. Williams was effusive in his gratitude. "Sarah, I can't thank you enough. The way you cared for Timothy, you truly are an angel." That night, Sarah sat in her car in the hospital parking lot, staring at a syringe filled with potassium chloride. She had planned to inject it into Timothy's IV during her midnight rounds, causing a cardiac arrest that would appear completely natural. The boy would die, Doctor. Williams would be destroyed, and her revenge would be complete. But she couldn't do it. Looking at Timothy, she had seen Emma not as a victim to be avenged, but as a child who had deserved to live, to laugh, to grow up. Killing Timothy wouldn't bring Emma back. It would only create another grieving parent, another family destroyed by medical tragedy. Sarah threw the syringe into a medical waste container and drove home, feeling more empty and lost than she had in years. For 2 weeks after Timothy's surgery, Sarah struggled with her crisis of conscience. She continued her work at the hospital, but the fire that had driven her for 15 years had dimmed to barely glowing embers. She found herself actually helping patients instead of plotting their demise, and the change felt both foreign and strangely comforting. But her respite was short-lived. Dr. Williams approached her during a quiet moment in the break room, his expression serious and contemplative. "Sarah, can I ask you something personal?" he said, sitting down across from her. "Of course, Doctor. You've been here 3 years, and you're one of the best nurses I've ever worked with. But sometimes I catch you looking at me with this expression, like you're angry about something. Have I done something to offend you?" Sarah's heart began racing, but her face remained perfectly calm. "I'm not sure what you mean, Doctor." Dr. Williams leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I've been having the worst luck lately. Patients dying from complications that shouldn't happen. It's making me paranoid, wondering if someone might be deliberately..." He trailed off, but Sarah could see the suspicion growing in his eyes. Somehow, some part of him had begun to piece together the pattern. "Doctor," Sarah said carefully, "are you suggesting that someone on your surgical team might be sabotaging your operations?" "I don't know what I'm suggesting. I just know that something isn't right, and you're the only nurse who's been present for every single one of these cases." The accusation hung in the air between them like a toxic cloud. Sarah realized that her 15-year quest for revenge had reached its climax, not in the way she had planned, but in this moment of truth. "Dr. Williams," she said quietly, "do you remember a patient named Emma Chen, 6 years old, heart surgery, Seattle Children's Hospital, 15 years ago?" The color drained from Dr. Williams's face. Who are you?" "I'm Emma's mother, and you killed her." Dr. Williams stared at Sarah in shock, the pieces of the puzzle finally falling into place. "Emma Chen, the little girl with the retained surgical instrument. You're her mother." "You left a clamp inside my daughter's chest," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "She died from the infection. She died because you were too tired, too careless, too human to admit you shouldn't have been operating. Dr. Williams's hands began to shake. Sarah, that was the worst mistake of my life. There hasn't been a day since then that I haven't thought about Emma, haven't wished I could take it back. Wishing doesn't bring back the dead, Doctor. You've been killing my patients, he whispered. All those complications, all those deaths. That was you. Sarah nodded. 4 patients, Doctor. 4 innocent people died because I wanted you to feel what I felt. I wanted you to experience the helplessness of watching people you were supposed to save slip away despite your best efforts. Dr. Williams buried his face in his hands. Oh God, Sarah, what have we done to each other? You started this 15 years ago when you killed my baby girl. And you've been finishing it by killing innocent people who trusted us to heal them. The accusation hit Sarah like a physical blow. In her quest for revenge, she had become exactly what she had always accused Dr. Williams of being, someone who caused needless death through selfish choices. I stopped, she whispered, after your son. I couldn't anymore. Dr. Williams looked up at her with haunted eyes. My son. You were going to kill Timothy? I was, but I couldn't. He looked at me with the same trust Emma used to have, and I realized that killing him wouldn't honor her memory. It would destroy it. For a long moment, they sat in silence, 2 people bound together by tragedy and guilt. What happens now? Dr. Williams asked finally. Sarah reached into her purse and pulled out a small digital recorder. I've been recording our conversation, she said. This confession, along with the evidence I've kept of how I killed those patients, will be enough to convict me. I'm going to turn myself in. Sarah, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Those 4 people had families who loved them, just like I loved Emma. They deserve justice too. Dr. Williams was quiet for a moment, then said, I want to come with you. I want to confess to my part in this, not just Emma's death, but the fact that my negligence set all of this in motion. Sarah looked at him in surprise. They'll destroy your career. You'll lose everything. I lost everything 15 years ago when I made the mistake that killed your daughter. I've just been pretending otherwise ever since. The next morning, Sarah Chen and Dr. Richard Williams walked into the police station together. The confession they gave sent shockwaves through the medical community and made international headlines. Nurse's 15-year revenge plot claims 4 lives. During the investigation that followed, Sarah provided detailed evidence of how she had killed each patient. Her methods were so sophisticated that without her confession, the deaths would have remained unsolved medical mysteries. The families of her victims were devastated, but some found a measure of peace in finally knowing what had happened to their loved ones. Dr. Williams voluntarily surrendered his medical license and testified on Sarah's behalf during her trial. He spoke about the crushing weight of guilt he had carried since Emma's death, and his belief that Sarah's actions, while inexcusable, were born from a grief he understood all too well. Sarah was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She accepted her punishment without appeal, telling the judge that she deserved to pay for what she had done to innocent people. But her story didn't end in that courtroom. From prison, Sarah began corresponding with the families of her victims, offering what comfort and closure she could. She also started a foundation dedicated to preventing medical errors, the Emma Chen Patient Safety Foundation. The foundation has since funded research that has prevented hundreds of surgical mistakes and saved countless lives. Dr. Williams, stripped of his medical license but not his desire to heal, became a patient advocate specializing in medical malpractice cases. He works tirelessly to ensure that families affected by medical errors receive proper compensation, and that negligent doctors are held accountable for their mistakes. 5 years after their confessions, Dr. Williams visits Sarah in prison once a month. They don't talk about revenge or justice anymore. Instead, they discuss the Foundation's latest research, share stories about Emma and Timothy, and work together to find meaning in the tragedy that brought them together. "Do you think Emma would forgive us?" Sarah asked during one of their visits. Dr. Williams considered the question carefully. "I think Emma would want us to keep other children safe. I think she'd want the pain we caused each other to mean something more than just destruction." Sarah nodded, looking out through the prison windows at a world she would never rejoin. "Then that's what we'll do. We'll make sure her death saves lives instead of taking them." Today, the Emma Chen Patient Safety Foundation is one of the leading organizations in surgical error prevention. Their protocols have been adopted by hospitals worldwide, and their research has dramatically reduced the incidence of retained surgical instruments. Sarah Chen remains in prison, where she spends her days corresponding with medical students, teaching them about the human cost of medical errors. Her letters are required reading in many ethics courses, serving as a powerful reminder that behind every medical mistake is a family whose world has been shattered. Dr. Richard Williams continues his advocacy work, though he carries the weight of his past mistakes every day. He never remarried after his divorce, dedicating his life to ensuring that no other family experiences what the Chens endured. Timothy Williams, now in college studying medicine, knows the full story of his father's past and Sarah's crimes. He plans to become a pediatric surgeon, carrying forward the legacy of healing that his father abandoned and that Sarah corrupted, but ultimately helped restore. The 4 patients who died as part of Sarah's revenge, Maria Santos, James Patterson, Ruth Goldberg, and Helen Rodriguez, are remembered through a memorial garden at St. Mary's Hospital. Their deaths were not in vain if they serve as a reminder that the desire for justice can become just as destructive as the original injustice it seeks to address. Sometimes the darkest secrets are born from the deepest love. Sarah Chen's love for her daughter drove her to become a killer, but it also drove her to become an agent of change that has saved more lives than she took. Dr. Williams's guilt over his mistakes led him to find redemption through service to others. In the end, they learned that true justice isn't about revenge. It's about preventing others from experiencing the same pain you've endured. Thank you for uncovering this incredible dark secret with us. This chilling tale proves that the desire for revenge can consume even the most caring hearts, turning healers into harbingers of death. If this shocking revelation left you speechless, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who loves discovering hidden truths. Subscribe to Dark Secret Stories for more jaw-dropping revelations about people hiding extraordinary secrets in plain sight. Until next time, remember, everyone around you might be hiding something that could change everything.